Welcome to True Betrayal Stories, where secrets are exposed, lies unravel, and justice is served. If you love shocking betrayal stories and satisfying revenge, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss an update. You're an embarrassment to this family. That was the sentence, sharper than any blade, my father launched at me on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I had just called to ask if we were doing the usual family gathering for Mom's birthday. He didn't hesitate. Not even a pause. "We don't want you here, Ryan," he added flatly. "It would just make things awkward, especially in front of Claire's boyfriend. Claire, my older sister, the golden one." I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't ask for an explanation. I hung up, opened my laptop, and quietly logged into my bank account. 3 years worth of automatic payments, utilities, water, internet, and even the streaming services they never bothered to cancel were all there. I canceled them all, one by one. No drama, no confrontation, just click. 31 days later, the house went dark. Cold showers, no Wi-Fi, no reply to any of their messages. Too little, too late. "Hi, I'm Ryan Carter. I'm 32 years old, living in a quiet suburb about 30 minutes from Portland, Oregon. Every morning, I wake up before sunrise, make a French press coffee, black, no sugar, open the blinds to let in the mountain light, and watch the morning news while I prep for work. The office is a short walk down the street, inside an industrial brick building that smells faintly of fresh-cut wood and ozone. I co-founded a green tech startup 3 years ago. Solar integrated roofing panels, clean energy solutions for residential spaces. We're not on the cover of Forbes, but we've built something real, something good. Still, when my family talks about what I do, if they talk about me at all, it's with that awkward shrug and vague phrase. Ryan's doing something with tools and wires, some kind of fixer job. They never really tried to understand. I never bothered to correct them. People sometimes ask about my family, my parents, my sister. I usually smile and say, "It's been a while since we talked." And that's the truth. No holiday visits, no birthday cards. Just a slow fade into silence, like someone forgot to press record on our relationship. It didn't always used to be this way. I believed in family. I showed up for birthdays, for Dad's surgeries, for Claire's graduation. I thought love was quiet, patient, always giving. But 3 years ago, on the week of my mom's birthday, something inside me snapped. I had booked my flight, first class no less, took time off, planned to arrive early, pick up groceries, even bake that dense chocolate cake Mom liked with the bittersweet frosting. The call to give them a heads up was just a formality. But when Dad answered and I told him I'd be home a couple days early, his reply came with hesitation. A long pause, then that tone I knew too well. Cold, polished, distant. "Ryan, maybe it's best if you don't come this year." At first I thought he was worried about my schedule. "It's no trouble, Dad," I said, sipping my coffee, unaware the next sip would burn my throat in more ways than one. "I've got everything sorted." He hesitated again, then delivered the real message. "Claire's bringing her boyfriend home. He's a manager, real professional, speaks well. It's just your job, your life. It's not exactly the kind of thing we want to talk about right now. It might make things uncomfortable." Uncomfortable? I felt a heat rise from the base of my spine to the back of my neck. The mug trembled in my hand. I set it down hard, too hard, the ceramic letting out a hollow clink on the counter. "Are you serious?" I asked, each word clipped. He didn't walk it back, didn't soften it, just said it again, like a judge delivering a sentence. "You'd embarrass the family." And then the final blow. "If you insist on coming, don't call me your father." Click. The call ended. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, hands wet with sweat, silence pressing down like snowfall. No footsteps, no cars outside, just those words ringing over and over like a church bell marking something that had died. "You'd embarrass the family. Don't call me your father." I sat down, opened my banking app, clicked on history. Over 3 years of quiet generosity unfolded like a financial autopsy. $385, $173 for electricity, $62 for water, $91.12 for internet. Month after month, every charge pulled from my account, like a silent prayer they never heard or cared to ask about. 3 years, not a single missed payment, not one thank you. Total, $32,148. I didn't cry, didn't rage, just stared at that number until it stopped meaning anything. like a scar you've traced too many times. That's when the question surfaced, one that stung more than any insult. Has Claire ever paid a single bill for them? Not in bitterness, just curiosity. How could I be the shame, the embarrassment, when I had sacrificed quietly for years? She brought home a boyfriend in a tailored suit. I brought stability. She smiled pretty in family photos. I kept the lights on, and yet somehow I was the problem. I don't remember exactly how long I sat there after that call. Maybe 20 minutes, maybe 2 hours. The coffee had gone cold in my hands, but I didn't even notice until a drop slid over my knuckle, lukewarm and meaningless, like every sacrifice I'd made for them. I opened my banking app again, not to gawk at the number, just to feel it. The list of payments looked almost poetic in their consistency, like a routine built on love that had quietly morphed into obligation. I didn't cancel them out of spite. That's the strange part. I canceled them because I finally realized that respect, once lost, can't be financed back into place. Power bill? Gone. Water? Gone. Wi-Fi? Click. That night I slept strangely well. No nightmares, no second guessing. Just a quiet resolve that for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to apologize for existing. Exactly 1 week later, I got a text from Mom. No apology, no I miss you, no how are you? Just this. Hi honey, the internet bill says overdue. Could you handle it today? Please and thank you. I stared at the message, scrolled up, saw nothing before it. Not a single word since the call with Dad. They hadn't called to say sorry. They didn't even acknowledge what he'd said. I didn't respond. Because that message, soft emojis and all, spoke volumes. We don't miss you. We miss what you do for us. A few days later, the power company must have called them because Dad left me a voicemail. The tone wasn't panicked, just annoyed. Electric's out. What's going on, Ryan? Call me back. As if I had dropped the ball. As if I had forgotten my job. Still no mention of that phone call. Still no retraction of the words. Don't call me your father. I didn't call back. Didn't block their numbers either. I wasn't interested in revenge or playing childish games. I just stopped. Stopped reaching. Stopped explaining. Stopped being the emotional janitor of our family. And then on the day of Mom's birthday, around 4 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Her name flashed across the screen. I watched it vibrate on the table. Didn't move. Didn't flinch. Let it ring. Then Claire called. Then Dad again. 3 missed calls in under 10 minutes. My thumb hovered over the screen, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. What would I say? That I remembered every birthday cake I ever bought with my own money because they said they were tight that month? That I remembered each time they bragged about Claire's college achievements while conveniently forgetting that I co-founded a company from scratch? I knew exactly what was happening at their house that night. Roast chicken, store-bought cake from that overpriced bakery Mom loved, a table full of smiling faces, the same faces that told me not to come because I was too awkward to explain. And right around 5 p.m., the messages began pouring in like hail. Nolan, the power's out. Can you please do something? Guests are arriving. Internet is down, it's freezing, and the water won't run. You need to fix this. Everyone's uncomfortable. One by one, they arrived, rapid fire. I looked at the timestamp. Exactly 3 weeks since the day I canceled the auto payments. They hadn't noticed until the night they needed it most. I sat back in my chair, watching the steam rise from my reheated mug, the scent dull and bitter. It wasn't joy I felt, not triumph, just peace. Like I'd finally been released from a prison I didn't even realize I had entered. And then came the most expected part, the relatives. Text after text from cousins and aunts who never once asked how I was doing, but now had a symphony of judgments. You embarrassed your mother in front of the family. You should be ashamed. Claire was right, you shouldn't show up on happy occasions. That one hit hard, not because it hurt, but because it was proof. Proof that the whole family had chosen the narrative before I ever had a chance to speak. The screen lit up again. This time it was Aunt Beth, the one relative who had always treated me like a person, not a burden. She was calling via video, through an old FaceTime account we still used from years back. I hesitated, then accepted. Her face appeared on screen, backlit by that dim yellow kitchen light I remembered so well. The clink of dishes and awkward laughter echoed behind her. She leaned in. Ryan, you're not going to pay it, are you? She asked softly. Not accusing, not disappointed, just real. Dad told me not to come, I replied, voice low, steady. Said if I did, I shouldn't call him my father. Her eyes flinched slightly. Not in surprise. She already knew, I think, but in sadness. A deep, wordless sadness you only feel when someone finally says out loud what everyone else is pretending not to hear. And then voices behind her, loud, chaotic. The conversation had shifted. Tell him I'm ashamed of him, I heard Mom say in the background. Then Dad, it's not that big of a deal. It's just some damn bills. What kind of man holds grudges over money? Uncle Greg chimed in. Poor Claire has to deal with a brother like that. And then like a ghost stepping into frame, Claire herself appeared behind Aunt Beth. He even picked up the call, she scoffed. Mom's been crying all day. Does he even care? I didn't speak. I just watched. Their voices, their faces, all colliding in one pixelated mess of resentment and blame. Then suddenly, someone new stepped into view. A young man, dark blazer, clean cut, nervous eyes. He looked straight at me through the screen and said, half whispering, "Hey, boss?" I blinked. Wait, boss? I stared at the screen, at him. It took a few seconds to register, but when it did, something in me shifted. He was one of our new hires, from the Southern office. We'd exchanged emails, maybe a brief handshake at a quarterly meetup. I hadn't known. He was Claire's boyfriend, the one they were so desperate to impress. The room fell silent. Aunt Beth glanced over her shoulder. I could hear whispers rippling in the background. Wait, what did he just call Ryan? Boss? Like her boyfriend's boss? The young man straightened, cleared his throat, and looked away from the camera toward the dinner table. I work at Pacific Terratech, he said. Mr. Carter is one of the founders. The hush that followed was delicious. Not bitter. Just earned. I didn't gloat, didn't smirk. Just offered a faint nod and calmly said, "Hope your big introduction's going great." And then I ended the call. That night, I didn't toss and turn. Didn't replay the words they'd thrown at me or wonder if I should have said something different. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in years, they weren't just feeling the absence of my presence. They were starting to understand the value of it. And ironically, it wasn't me who spelled it out for them. It was him. The very boyfriend they wanted to impress. The man they wanted me hidden away from. The one whose opinion, presentation, and approval mattered so much they were willing to cut me out of the picture. Turns out I was the picture. The following morning, as the fog crept low across the Oregon hills and the sky stretched into a pale slate gray, I sipped my coffee and did what I always did. Checked my emails. A few reminders, a software bug report from the dev team, an event invitation I'd ignore, and then one unexpected subject line. I didn't know. Hudson Kane. I opened it. Ryan, I didn't know you were Claire's brother. I've only ever known you as the guy in charge who actually listens when people talk, the one who backed my pitch on day one. You've always been respectful and fair. I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm sorry for everything that went down yesterday. I didn't expect Claire to be like that. I'm ending the relationship, and thank you for not putting me on the spot in front of everyone. I leaned back into the couch, eyes closed. There was no thrill in that message, no victory lap, but it did feel like a pressure valve had finally been released. I typed a short reply. Hudson, what you choose to do in your personal life is your call. I never expected you to act any certain way just because of me. That's not how I run things. Think carefully before you make any final decisions. But just so you know, I don't bring family into the workplace. Never have, never will. And with that, I hit send. Simple, clean, no drama. It's funny how people assume silence means weakness. Like if you don't raise your voice, you must not be strong. But strength doesn't always need an audience. Sometimes it just needs boundaries. Around 10 a.m., after a product development meeting, I stepped into the hallway for some air. My phone buzzed again. Claire. I stared at her name. Something in me expected this. Not hope, just inevitability. I declined the call. 5 minutes later, a message popped up. I'm sorry, I didn't think Hudson would react like that. You're his boss. If you said something, I'm sure he'd listen. Please talk to him. Ask him to come back to me. That was Claire in a nutshell, never directly apologizing for how she treated me. Just pivoting, gently manipulating, always with soft edges and open palms, trying to reshape the world without ever touching the truth. I walked over to the big corner window that overlooked the trees lining the company's parking lot, then typed back, Hudson didn't leave because of anything I said. He left because of what he saw, how you treat people, how you talk down to what you don't understand, and how you always assume a soft tone can change the truth. That's not on me, Claire. I hit send and pocketed the phone. No anger, no pleasure, just clarity. But of course, it wasn't over. Less than a minute later. Please, I know I messed up this time. I really mean it. I'll change, just believe me. Just this once. I stood there with the message in front of me for a good while and felt nothing. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood something people rarely admit out loud. Sometimes the distance between people isn't the words they say, it's how late they say them. You can't unbreak a plate just because you finally said, oops. You can't rewrite years of silence with one, please. I deleted the message, not in anger, just as a final act of release, and turned back to the life still happening around me. The real one. The one I built from grit and silence and late-night work, not from family handouts or polished performances for visiting boyfriends. It was about a week later when the knock came at my door. Friday, late afternoon. The air smelled like wet pine and last night's rain. I had just come in from the garage, jacket still on, when I froze. There they were, my parents, both standing at the threshold of my home, each with a suitcase in hand, their faces weary, not from age but from discomfort, from needing something they couldn't dress up in pride. I didn't ask why they came. The answer was already packed in the silence between us. I opened the door and stepped aside. We sat in the living room. The kettle whistled on the stove. No hugs, no accusations, just awkward gravity pulling us into stillness. My father spoke first, calm, controlled. We've been thinking a lot about what happened. Maybe things went too far. Maybe we said some things we shouldn't have. My mother nodded, voice softer. You've always been independent. We didn't realize how much we'd come to rely on you, and maybe we took that for granted. I said nothing. I wasn't waiting for an apology. I was waiting to see what came after it. And sure enough, it came. My father leaned forward, his voice gentler now, almost rehearsed. We're family, Ryan. Family helps each other out. Always has, always should. We raised you, put you through school. Everything you have, part of it came from us. There it was. The cost of their remorse. A subtle, invisible invoice being slid across the coffee table. My mother added almost casually, if you could support us with, say, $2,000 a month, just until we get things stable again. It's not that much for someone like you. I stared at them, not with anger, but with the exact kind of stillness you find in someone who has already decided. I leaned back, rested my palms on my thighs, and asked, and Claire, how much will she be contributing? The air froze. My father looked at my mother. My mother gave a small sigh and said, Claire's been going through a lot. The breakup hit her hard. Her job situation is still uncertain. I nodded. Of course. Different script, same story. If Claire agrees to send you $2,000 a month, I said evenly, I'll match her. No more. No less. They stared, confused, maybe a little betrayed. But I wasn't done. Or, if you'd prefer I cover the full amount, I'll need it in writing. A legal agreement. And when the time comes, the house passes to me. I sat back and waited. No pressure, no raised voice. Just giving them, for once, a taste of terms they couldn't rewrite. My father stood up so fast the chair scraped loudly against the hardwood. You're putting conditions on your own parents? He bellowed, his voice echoing off the ceiling. We raised you for over 20 years, and now you want to negotiate our retirement like a business deal? He slammed his hand on the table. The tea sloshed. Still, I didn't flinch. I simply stood, voice calm but unshakable. I think you should leave. He didn't move at first. My father just stood there, stunned by the idea that someone like me, the lesser child, the forgettable one, the background blur in family photos, was now the one setting boundaries in a house he didn't pay for, couldn't control. And then he moved, not slowly, not with dignity, but with frustration. That frustrated, almost theatrical kind of anger you see in people who have no power left, but still want to act like they do. He dragged his suitcase toward the door without looking back. My mother followed silent, her eyes locked on the floor. Not a single word between them. When the door clicked shut behind them, it wasn't loud. It was gentle, final. And still, for a few minutes, I just stood there. Not victorious, not broken, just weightless. That's what people never tell you about letting go of toxic family dynamics. It doesn't feel like breaking something. It feels like releasing something that was already broken. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't send a dramatic message or post a passive-aggressive quote online. I didn't even tell my friends. I just stopped. I stopped reaching out, stopped hoping, stopped wondering if maybe, this time, they'd understand. And from that moment on, nothing came back. No calls, no messages, no check-ins for my birthday, no "how are you doing" after flu season passed. Not even a forward of those corny, inspirational quotes my mom used to spam us with. The silence at first felt hollow, then liberating, and eventually just natural. I kept living. I kept working. I got promoted within my own company. That's a weird sentence to say out loud, but when you build something with partners who actually respect you, sometimes they look you in the eye and say, "You deserve more equity." I traveled for work. I took weekends to hike. I reconnected with old college friends. Started volunteering once a month at a tech mentorship program for kids. Bought a new mattress. Switched to pour over coffee instead of French press. Little things that meant nothing to anyone else but made me feel alive again. One day, while sorting through some documents in my home office, I came across a faded photo tucked inside a folder I hadn't opened in years. It was from Claire's high school graduation. She was front and center in her crimson cap and gown, beaming. Mom and Dad flanked her, arms around her back. And me? I was behind them. Literally, blurred at the edge of the frame, half a smile, not quite looking at the camera. I didn't feel sad looking at it. I just finally understood. That photo had captured the truth long before I ever had the words for it. I was never supposed to be seen. Just supportive, silent, disposable. And for so long I accepted that role. Because when you grow up believing love must be earned by being useful, you start to equate being needed with being valued. But not anymore. About a year and a half later, almost 2 years to the day since that final conversation, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. No caller ID, just 5 digits in a blinking screen. I let it ring. Voicemail. Then another call. This one I answered. It wasn't my parents, not Claire. It was the lawyer. Apparently they were downsizing, selling their home. Retirement funds weren't stretching the way they thought. Something about poor financial planning and unexpected medical costs. I listened, nodded politely, took notes. Then he said, "They've asked if you'd be willing to help cover the difference. They specifically said they'd rather deal with you than sell to a third party. There's still a lot of family sentiment in the house." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted copper. Family sentiment. In that house? The one I was exiled from because I wasn't shiny enough to sit across from Claire's boyfriend? The one whose light I paid for while they forgot my birthday? I thanked the lawyer for the call and told him I'd consider it. Then I sat down, alone in my kitchen, and thought. I didn't feel cold. I didn't feel cruel. I just finally understood that some things should be left exactly where they broke. A few days later, I called him back. Told him I wasn't interested in buying the house, but I'd be willing to buy them out. Cash, clean, final. They'd walk away with a check. I'd walk away with no ties. I figured they'd say no. But they didn't. Maybe pride only gets you so far when the lights go out and the mortgage knocks. The deal closed in February. I had the locks changed the same week. I didn't move in. I didn't renovate. I didn't turn it into a rental or sell it to a stranger. I just left it empty, not out of spite, but as a monument. To silence, to survival, to finally choosing myself. It was spring again when the doorbell rang. The same quiet street, the same gray porch light. But this time I wasn't holding a cup of coffee or buried in my inbox. I had just come in from a jog, earphones still hanging around my neck, shirt damp with sweat in the first warmth of April. I opened the door, and there they were. My parents, again. No suitcase this time, just a small envelope clutched in my mother's hand. My father, as always, stood slightly behind her, trying to look firm, but with eyes that shifted just a little too often, like even he wasn't convinced of his own reasons for being here. I didn't speak, didn't invite them in, just leaned my shoulder on the frame and waited. My mother stepped forward. "Ryan," she began, that practiced softness in her voice. "We didn't come to ask for anything." I almost laughed. They always said that, right before asking for something. "We just wanted to talk," she added. I crossed my arms. "Then talk." She swallowed, looked down at the envelope and held it out to me. "It's everything from the house," and she said. "Old photos, certificates, your kindergarten report card, the drawing you made for me on my 40th birthday." I took it, but I didn't open it. Just kept it in my hands like it was a box of ashes. My father cleared his throat. "We're going to Florida, retirement village. Your mother's sister lives nearby." I nodded. He looked around, at the porch, The garden. The new fence I installed myself. You've done well, he said, and for once his voice wasn't sharp. It was small. I let them stand there for a few more seconds. The breeze carried the scent of cut grass and tulips from next door. Was that it? I finally asked. They looked at each other. My mother stepped forward again. I know we hurt you, she said, but we're still your parents. That's true, I replied, but I'm no longer your safety net. Her eyes widened, not from shock, from recognition. The words weren't cruel. They were just the truth spoken without fear. I could feel my father stiffen beside her. We raised you, he said, with a hint of that old thunder in his voice. And I paid for it, I said, calm and steady. 3 years of bills, thousands of dollars, silence in return. He opened his mouth. I raised my hand. You don't get to rewrite the story now that it doesn't serve you. They didn't argue, because deep down they knew. It wasn't about money, it was about dignity. It was about being told I was nothing until they needed something. They left not long after that. Quiet, no fireworks, no slammed doors or guilt-tripping farewells. Just a slow walk down the steps, and the sound of their car pulling away into a neighborhood that had never welcomed them. A week later, Claire called. I didn't answer. Another message, this one longer, almost poetic, talking about reflection, healing, what family really means. She wanted to meet, coffee, a chance to talk. No judgment, no expectations. I left it unread, not out of cruelty, but because I'd read versions of that same message before, dressed up in different words but always leading to the same outcome. We need something from you, and we hope you're still soft enough to give it. And the truth is, I'm not soft anymore. Not in the way that breaks me. Not in the way that says yes to people who see me as a backup plan instead of a brother. Now I live quietly. I still go to work every day. Still build things. Still laugh. Still wake up to the sound of morning radio and the aroma of pour-over coffee. But I no longer carry the weight of trying to earn love that should have been given freely. And I know some people will read this and say, but they're your family. You should forgive. You should give more. You should come back. To them, I say this. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's servitude. And forgiveness without change is just permission. I didn't cut ties because I was bitter. I cut ties because I was bleeding. And sometimes the only way to stop bleeding is to stop handing people the knife. So before I go, I want to ask you something. If your parents asked you for $2,000 a month, not as a loan, not as a favor, but as a duty, would you give it? Even if they had spent most of your adult life dismissing you? Even if they only showed up when their lights went out and their bank account hit zero? Would you call that love? Or just a transaction dressed up in guilt? Because I've learned something through all of this. Real family doesn't count what you give. They notice when you're gone. And when someone doesn't notice your absence, maybe they never valued your presence in the first place. It started with an email. Subject line, mentorship program, volunteer appreciation dinner. I almost deleted it. Thought it was just another mass invite to something with lukewarm catered food and awkward small talk. But something in me paused. I'd been volunteering for that tech mentorship program every other Saturday for the past year and a half. Teaching Python basics to middle schoolers, setting up Raspberry Pi kits, debugging Arduino circuits next to kids who still had braces and dreams far bigger than their zip codes. So I clicked yes. Didn't think much of it. Just another Thursday night, right? The dinner was hosted in the community center's rec hall. Long plastic tables, those uncomfortable foldable chairs that scream budget approval pending, and a buffet line of Costco lasagna and lukewarm soda. But the energy, it was warm, lively, familiar, in a way I hadn't felt since I was a kid building Lego cities alone in my room. Halfway through the event, a shy voice came from my left. Mr. Carter? I turned. It was Elijah, 12 years old, smart as hell, and somehow managed to turn every coding assignment into a game mod or prank. He was holding a piece of paper, folded neatly, the way kids do when they're about to give you something important. This is for you, he said. It's for that time you stayed late to help me fix my project. I didn't forget. I took the paper, opened it. It was a drawing. Not perfect, a little messy, marker ink bleeding through the back. But there, in rough strokes, was a picture of me and him sitting at a table, computers glowing. At the top, in bubble letters, thanks for seeing me. That's when it hit me. I wasn't missing family. I was building one, not through bloodlines or last names, but through presence, through showing up when it mattered, through being the person I needed when I was 12 years old, half hidden in family photos and full of questions no one ever bothered to answer. Later that night, after the last plate was scraped clean and the folding chairs were stacked, I stood by the coat rack, sipping punch from a paper cup, when Elijah's mom came up to me. She was quiet, polite, looked like she worked 2 jobs and didn't complain about either. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said, eyes soft but tired. "You've made a real difference. He talks about you nonstop. He said he wants to start a company one day, like his mentor." I smiled. "He's got the brain for it, and the heart. That's more than most CEOs I know." She laughed lightly and said something I'll never forget. "We might not have much, but we talk about legacy in our house." And I told Elijah, "It's not about inheritance, it's about impact. That's what you've given him. That's what he'll remember. Legacy. Not money, not names on deeds, not who paid what bill. Impact." I walked home that night under a sky full of soft stars and blooming cherry trees, the crisp Portland air wrapping around me like a quiet promise. And I realized something. My parents thought legacy was something you demanded, because of what you gave years ago, because of bloodlines and surnames. But real legacy, it's what you build while no one's watching. About a month later, I got another envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a copy of an old will. My parents'. Outdated by years. In it, Claire was listed as the sole inheritor of the house, the accounts, everything. No surprise there. But attached was a sticky note, clearly newer, handwritten. "We know this wasn't fair. We're sorry. The lawyer will be in touch. Do what you want with it." No signature, no names. Just that. I didn't cry, didn't rage. Just folded it neatly and placed it in the bottom drawer of my desk, right next to the drawing Elijah gave me. Because that piece of paper, that wasn't an apology. It was an admission. A quiet one. Late but I'm clear. Now, when people ask if I have a family, I answer truthfully, not in the traditional sense, but I've got people. Good ones. The kind that show up. The kind that see you. And when they ask if I ever regret not going back, not reconciling, not healing those bonds, I tell them this. Some bridges aren't meant to be burned or rebuilt. Some are just meant to be left behind, so you can finally see the horizon. So wherever you are right now, if you've ever felt like the invisible one in the photo, the one who gave and never got a seat at the table, know this, you are not alone. You're not bitter. You're not broken. You're just learning to build your own table and fill it with people who see you, not for what you provide, but for who you are. And trust me, that's the only kind of family worth fighting for. Hit like and comment if you believe betrayal deserves consequences, and subscribe for more real, raw stories where secrets get exposed, lies fall apart, and justice always finds a way. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.